When you look at converting people from reading to subscription, how has that journey been when you've come online? And from a tech standpoint, how are you approaching that?
Well, first I'd like to even just point out that we're actually 20 years into the digital era now. It's quite shocking to stop and think about that. So we actually have a print legacy and we have a digital legacy of kind of how we approached, the first 20 years of digital. So it's already been a long journey and there's a great deal further to go. So it's interesting to stop and think about that a little bit. I think the turning point and what's led to the changes that we're working through now was actually launching the paywall and taking the subscription business seriously, which interestingly enough was really kind of an experiment when we got into it. We really didn't know how that was going to go, and it was very much against the grain at the time, certainly for newspaper companies, and we were very heavily criticized for it in many circles, as a matter of fact. But it's been proven, I think, now to be the key to our business going forward. And it's been very, very clarifying for us. Not to say that the media business, the ad-driven business is not important. It's incredibly important to us. But knowing that we have a viable digital subscription product that we can really build an audience around is a central fact that's giving shape to our strategy now.
It's kind of one of those things, if everybody's doing it, then the consumer has to adjust and treat a paywall as normal. Whereas if you're the first person to step out and do it, it's a huge experiment. But as you said, so necessary for creating it.
We were fortunate in that another wave of content companies came along before us and did start to train consumers to pay for things on the internet, and that was led by the video companies, by Netflix and Hulu, and then later by the music subscription companies. So it's still a big leap from that behavior to paying for news content, but at least they sort of helped to establish that you do pay for things on the internet. So that was a good start.
What are you guys doing from a technological standpoint to really focus on getting youth on board?
Well, I think very few of us actually grew up that way with the New York Times as part of the household. Mainly if you grew up in New York or in the Northeast, that might have been your experience, or a handful of other pockets around the country, certainly not internationally. So that's the other side of the coin there, is that there's actually a much larger audience that we've already been able to address and that we can continue to address going forward. But you're absolutely right. There's a huge shift in the behavior amongst younger consumers, obviously, and the phone is truly the key to not even just the younger demographic, but really everybody. All of the growth that we see in audiences is on the smartphone, literally all of it. So the key for us is to find the right balance in participating in the big social media platforms. We have to be a little bit careful because if we, in some ways, provide too good an experience on Twitter or Facebook, we actually undermine people's need to discover their brand. But there's no other way to reach the core, the whole audience, and particularly the younger people, than through those platforms. So that's a game that we play very carefully to try to get the brand out, get some familiarity, and then ultimately convince people that it's worth them downloading the app or coming to the site.
How much do you focus on the engagement as compared to, okay, this is just a story that needs to be told from an ethical standpoint?
Well, I think it's a wonderful thing for the Times that the legacy in that respect can't be questioned. I mean, the Times is all about the integrity of the journalism and in telling the stories that only the New York Times can tell. So that's non-negotiable, and that I think is what keeps the brand strong. And I'm very grateful for that personally, because it could be very tempting to go down a slippery slope of playing the clickbait game and so on, which is just a losing proposition. So from an audience development perspective, we have to be a little bit clever, and we have to be nimble, and we have to work with what we have. But fortunately, what we have is an amazing content machine, so there's plenty to work with.